All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app, your home smart speaker, and up on TSN for Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan. How are we feeling on a Tuesday afternoon?
What a show we have today.
Woo.
And I'll tell you what, before this segment ends, I just have a little reveal because I promised people on Twitter that I would reveal the face that I can't stand, and it's either you or Luke.
Okay,
so before we go to break,
yes, the reveal will happen, right? In the next 15 minutes, 20 minutes or so, a little tease, because I answered the FaceTime last night, Noodles. I had to answer. It was mandatory. I had to answer last night. And you know what's interesting?
You're the one that pissed me off more was Harden.
Yeah, James Harden just creeping past 14.
You have to get 30 if you're going to do that to me, not 17.
17. The total on FanDuel was 14.5. You were hammering the under. I said he'd get there, and he got there.
And they sucked, too. They lost.
Terrible.
They got crushed against the Knicks.
The Knicks
it's like, why couldn't you get 12 points?
Well, that was amazing last night, like watching that or parts of it. There was so much going on with the football game and the Leaf game, but they all played. Kawhi played, Paul George played, Russ played, Harden played, and they got dummied by the Knicks in New York. So, it's the first game, but put that into perspective. But, yeah, I answered the FaceTime last night, and you were thinking the same thing I was. I snapped a peg. Look at how stoned I look in this picture, dude.
Someone said, how many pre-rolls for Hazy B?
I look like I have been ripping bong hits for 3 hours watching that game last night, and then you and Luke decided to FaceTime me. I snapped a pic. Maybe I'll send it to Joe from the bridge because I was thinking about doing the same thing. I was going to post it and say FaceTime accepted, but the pic I had of you two, you guys look like goons, so I decided, you know what? I'm not going to post it, but now maybe I should because you posted that pic. Look at that, Noodles.
My partsy, I tried to tell him yesterday where he was so adamant on taking the Jets, and I'm like, dude, just think about what you're saying. Take that pic down, Joe.
Yeah, that's. I don't want to see that picture anymore.
That's 4 minutes too long.
It's awesome.
When he was so convinced about the Jets, I just wanted to say to him, think about what you're doing right now, and you know. Admit it. Off the air, he looked at you and said, honestly, who would you take? And you said, I'd take the Jets.
That's not true.
No, dude. That's exactly what you said.
You don't. You think you did the reverse? I do feel
Noodles, I heard the guy off the air when we went to commercial. They have their little man-to-man talk, and Luke goes, by the way, bro, who would you take if it was you? And he goes, no, I take the Jets. That's the right call. And they both do the head shake to each other.
I don't think that happened. I'm trying to prop him up. I'm trying to make him feel better.
The guy played in the league. South. He doesn't need to be propped up.
Zach Wilson's throwing for 240.
No, he's not.
Yes, he is.
Zach Wilson is not capable of throwing for 240.
Here's the thing. He did last night. He threw for 270, but it was the worst 270 I think this league has ever seen. Anyway, save the reveal. We'll get to it in about 15 minutes. I think you're effectively leading the witness here. I think most people know who you're talking about. I would hope we know who you're talking about. But, yeah, Chargers went big last night. We'll get into Aaron Rodgers, his antics as well.
God, he loves doing stuff on
He's such a hero. He's got to stop. He's got to stop. The Jets fans are so tortured. They're so miserable. They don't need him out there running around and throwing the ball 50 yards down the field and telling guys he's coming back in a few weeks.
2 weeks.
It's so unnecessary. It's a troll job. And if I'm a Jets fan, I'd be like, stop it. Don't even go out there anymore. Wear a suit and sit up in the suite.
He kind of looks good, though.
Yeah, he does. I know. That's what's concerning.
The weird part is he actually looks like he's put some, like his upper body looked like he was been doing some weights, he put together. He's a big guy, but I was like, God, he does look good. It's weird.
ESPN measured the throw he threw in the pregame. 55 yards. 55 yards. He was chucking the pill before the game last night. And he's a pure athlete. On one leg, he can do that. But if I'm a Jets fan, I just want him to stop. Just stop it and get out of here. You're not coming back. It's not going to happen until next year. And let's move on with our lives here. So more on that later on. More on what's going on in Edmonton, scattered throughout the show. But the Leaf game, that was a thoroughly entertaining game. And call me crazy, but I think we have an ownership here where I think the Leafs kind of own the Tampa Bay Lightning, which is a wild scenario when you consider what's happened, over the last couple of years where, the Leafs beat them last year in the playoffs. They're down 4-1 twice. They pull Samsonov twice, and the same script plays out, one in Tampa, one in Toronto, where they come back and win. John Cooper, like you saw his facial expressions after the Marner goal, 8 seconds after the Yarncroke goal. It's like Tampa they can't close.
Well, he
against
was
the Leafs.
pissed at that line change. He was like, whoever
Awful.
decided that line change was going down that way, the execution of that was nonsense. And he was looking down there like, really, guys? Like, you just saw it in his face. He never loses his mind on his players behind the bench, but that was amateur hour.
You could get you could ask for a save at that point too. Like,
well, that's true.
Larry
That's true.
Johansson in the net, and like that. I know it ticks his stick a little bit, but you can't be. That's not a dangerous shot from there. I think it ticks the stick, and then he guesses at it and waves at it. But there were some bad goals given up last night on both ends. Like Samsonov looked lost, and like I say, Jerry Johansson has played pretty well for them, but like I don't know. Vasilevsky, like they're just hanging on to get to Vasilevsky, and they're doing a good job considering. That's a superstar that they don't have in net. Literally.
Right. I'll believe it when I see it that he's going to be back in the next week and a half, 2 weeks, and be at 100%. Like, they're trying to will that into existence.
Well, I think they're talking December. I thought I read this morning, December.
Well, Cooper, I thought, said he'd be disappointed if it was into December. Now, maybe that was tongue-in-cheek, and maybe there was context behind that, but that was the quote that I read.
That was maybe a little nudge saying, you better get your ass
That's
back
what
in
I'm
that
saying.
net.
Like, almost like a shot at the other goalie's like, hey, hate to break it to you, but, yeah, we're lighting incense here. Like we're doing some dances here, trying to pray that Vasilevsky returns. But it's a major injury, no training camp. He's a beast. There's no disputing that. He is a beast. But that was, it's not the best playbook. Obviously, you're playing with fire for the Maple Leafs. You don't want to spot any team, let alone Tampa, a 4-1 lead consistently. But I'll give him credit for the battle. Joseph Woll had to do it again, which is pretty remarkable, coming in cold. Noodles, you can speak to that, how difficult that is. Now, he did start a new period here. It wasn't him coming in clean in the first like he did in Tampa.
Right.
But
I just think Auston Matthews just dragged him out of it, like
he's
literally willed him out of it.
He's
like
been
that's
amazing.
Because I think today we're talking, if they end up losing 5-1 or something, we're talking about Samsonov, like what the hell's he doing, and him on waivers calling up Martin Jones. Like you saw it trending on Twitter, Tree Living, Martin Jones, Samsonov, all of that. And then Auston Matthews is like, no, that's not going to happen. Not on my watch. And that's really, we're not talking about it today. Like
Unbelievable performance by him. And as far as Samsonov goes, I think he needs the goaltender 2 weeks to find his game because it's not there. They're like, in that league, when guys are scoring and the whole net looks empty when the puck goes into the net, it's a big-time problem. It's not good.
I thought about it, guys. Like, okay, so they got 3 games in 4 nights coming up. Which one does Samsonov get?
Calgary, Friday, no question. No question.
So you got Woll tomorrow, and then Woll against Vancouver on Saturday.
All day.
That's what you're thinking.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, Calgary's the worst team of the 3 right now. I mean, that's saying something considering Ottawa's struggling. But Ottawa's going to have something cooking tomorrow. You're going to Woll tomorrow, I think.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I think you do. Absolutely.
Yeah, for me, it would be Ottawa, Vancouver as Woll. You give Samsonov Calgary. We all know what's going on with Calgary. 5-on-5, they're not exactly producing a lot right now. I think they put 6 on the board on Saturday, but still, they're not a juggernaut offensive team right now. So, yeah, but it says something about where he's at, that's kind of the conversation that probably is revolving around the goalie room right now is how do we shelter a start? Like, which start do we give him that is going to make him feel at ease? Because, last night, it's not a good look, and you guys saw it. Like, after the 4th goal, when he's staring at the bench, that's him saying, get me out of here, basically.
Yeah.
Like, he knew he was erratic, he was shaky, and he had a face on, too, right? He was looking at the bench saying, what are we doing here? Like, I can't do it tonight. And that's a real
That's
sign
troublesome
of
when it's like,
trouble.
get me the hell out of here.
Absolutely.
Too, is I didn't like the Leafs start. I thought their D were backing into the top of the circles. Listen, Samson, you need to stop that Hedman shot. That's how it started. I mean, they gave up the blue line, whatever, but you can't allow him to score from just outside the face-off dot wide on that play. That's a bad goal. The Kucherov one goes through the body, gets caught in motion. The second Kucherov one, no chance on that. That's a backdoor one-timer. But then the point one, that kind of, like, if you watch his motion, like, he's just all over the net. Like, it looks busy in the net, like very busy.
Right.
And I knew he was done at that point. Like, you're just like, holy smokes, mercy. And that's what he's looking at it, like, uncle.
And then the big boy took over, and you got to give him a lot of props because there was some positive things after that. And Auston Matthews, basically the Noodles, you just said it, dragging them back in. There were some positive signs, maybe that Robertson kid had a game. And
I liked him last night. I liked
You know what?
Game.
It was one of the first times I looked and I'm like, okay, that's kind of NHL stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't all these little tricks and dipsy-doos and diddly-dees. It was just like National Hockey League stuff and rip it onto the net.
Oh, you're right.
And it was the first time I'm like, okay, that might work. And maybe him and Domi and Yarncrook, that third line, maybe that can do something. And it was just like some positive momentum going forward. I thought it was an unbelievable game because it would have been a nightmare today if they had lost that one, and it would have been like, who the hell's going to play net? Their defense core stinks. They can't play D, and it would have been a mess.
Yeah.
So hopefully that this is some kind of launching pad where they can start playing on a more consistent basis and make it happen.
Right. Well,
you're
that's right. Because after 20, everyone was having the same conversation. Like, everyone was like, man, look at this. Like, they're getting caved in here. They haven't shown up. Samsonov's a mess. Tampa has shown up and realized we're going to make a statement here and leave a drag bump behind, and everyone can just basically chew on that because they know the city's going to be up in flames. And it happened that quickly, and it started with Matthews. Like, when you consider his numbers, the guy's got 13 goals in 12 games. Like, it's just incredible. Now, that includes 3 hat tricks.
But the scary part is, I feel bad saying this. I feel like he has more because he hasn't been brilliant in those other hat trick games. You know what I mean? Like, there's nights where you're like, I think he had one game where he had 14 shot attempts and didn't score that night. Like, if he ended up, like, if he was more consistent, he'd be at like 15, 16 goals.
Which is asking an insane amount. Like, you got to be reasonable with what this guy's going to do. But last night, like, him playing to the crowd, I think is something that was very necessary as well. It's a Monday night. They got booed off the ice, and they deserved to get booed off the ice. They played poorly. They had lost 4 games in a row going into the game. And, he scores 2 back-to-back, makes it 4-3. We're watching up on TSN 4 right now. He's like, let's get cooking here. And I thought the crowd was great after that. I thought the pop on the Yarncrook OT winner, that sounded like a Saturday night in the playoffs. Like, that place was rocking. And, again, the script is not ideal. You don't want a situation where you're gift wrapping a three-goal lead, you're pulling your goalie, and it gets desperate. And they still almost couldn't close and get to overtime after Hagel made it 5-5, where then Tampa had some pressure late. And, Wall had to make a couple of stops. But, I think in the end, it turns into 100% positive minus Samsonov, clearly.
Well,
like, Samsonov is in a different category. But I think considering the comeback, considering Matthews, I think that Yarncrook line had a good night. Matthew Knies was outstanding for them. And it was patchwork for a couple of defensemen that generally wouldn't be in the NHL anyway, and they did a good enough job to get the job done last night.
That's right. You're right. You've got to spin it into positive, but like that, you're giving up 5 you can't be they gave up 6 the other night, they gave up 5. Like, they got to get this team last year was so buttoned up defensively. Like, they're not there yet. Like,
no, they're not there yet. No, but this has kind of been, that game last night has been a microcosm of what they've done throughout their season generally. The first period being the first 10 to 20 games, sloppy, erratic, a lot of people wondering what the hell is going on. And then they seem to get it on the rails, solidify things, and move on. And yes, there are obviously different things you can point to. And needless to say, giving up 5 is not going to work for you. But if you score 6, you can spin it positively.
But that's what I mean. They've outscored their issues.
Yes, they've outscored their issues.
And that's, you look at Edmonton, like, the difference, they don't outscore their issues. Like, top players don't. Like, Matthews dragged them out of it, and McDavid hasn't dragged them out.
He
of it.
has not dragged them out of it.
But that's like I look at top players. This is a top player league, and Matthews was unbelievable and has been. And it's sad because he wasted a hat trick the other night against Buffalo where he almost dragged them out of it. But Buffalo
Same scenario. Chasing the game all night. Yeah, you're right. And like Marner had, what do you have, 4 points again last night?
Back-to-back games. Yeah.
That Knies looks
games.
really good, man. That guy can be a monster. He's a big body out there. I want him to grow his hair and just be a menace in the corners and take it to the net and cause problems. He was in front of that net for the one Matthews goal, but just get in the corners.
Win battles.
And win battles, man. And he can be an absolute beast. Like, just literally
agree.
routes. Corner, front of the net. Corner, front of the net. In on the forecheck. Like, real simple route running for him and be a physical presence. That guy... He can stuff a lot of money in his jeans if he wants to take it. Like,
right.
Seriously, like if he wants to stuff some cash in his jeans, just grow your hair and be a menace.
Well, why do you have to grow your hair? It'll make his head even look bigger.
No.
I laughed out loud. Last night I was doing Sports Center Live, and he came up and he was doing an interview, and all I could think of was hockey head. Like, I'm like, this kid
Dude, he's
has
got
a hockey
giant
head.
squash. He has
it was
a big
awesome.
head, and I want him to
laughed.
grow the locks and be a menace, like just a menace in the corners.
Yeah.
And shove cash in his
awesome.
jeans.
Right. Well, I mean, for the Leafs, you realize that you don't have to worry about that for a couple of years, which is really beneficial. And
I want it for him, though. Like, what an opportunity to just go out there and work his ass off and be a physical presence and the goal-scoring touch and the hands around the net. He can be a real effective. I thought Tyler Bertuzzi was going to fit in that line.
I
or
didn't
Max
think he was
Domi
good
doing
again
that.
last night, Bertuzzi. Like, he's doing some wild stuff with the puck along the boards, icings, not getting his stick on. He's like high sticking situations he's putting himself in every night. Like, he is nowhere close to the player that he is and he's capable of being. And that, again, glass half full is you have to believe it. You're hoping if you're a Leaf fan or part of that team that eventually that will click for him. But, yeah, you're right about Knies. I think Robertson, the same thing. Like, those were big opportunities for, young players to grow their career, make an impact, make an impression. It's one game ultimately. But Knies gets up there with Matthews and Marner. He had a phenomenal night. Like, he had a huge impact on that game last night. And I think what Robertson did last night, like the give and go that led to the Yarncroke goal, that's a smart play. That's a skill play.
Right.
And he played with pace. I thought Domi in the middle of the ice looked more comfortable than he has all year because he can skate. Like, Max can skate, and the ice opens up more up the middle of the ice. But that is so necessary in terms of the big picture of this team because we're always talking about dollars and cents. Knies is cheap. Robertson's cheap. Like, if they can play and make an impact for you, they're on top of it, they're cheap. And Knies is further along. Robertson, it's one game. He's shown flashes before. For him, he's got to be consistent. Right? He's got to prove that when puck's not on his stick, he can still be an impactful guy or be someone that can be reliable. There's a lot that he still has to prove. But I was happy for him last night. Like, he's had ups and downs. He's been doubted, myself included. I don't know what he's going to be in terms of an NHL player. But I like Robertson's game last night. I like Knies last night. The crowd came alive. It was a fun game, an electric game. And ultimately, the Leafs can spin it positively. And then they got Ottawa here tomorrow night where – across the country, it was a completely different story where Edmonton is in such a dark place right now.
Oh, my God.
It's
dude.
scary
I
how
won't
dark
lie
it
to you.
is.
You guys inform me because I watched 5 minutes, and it looked like McDavid was going to have 13 points last night, and I could not keep my eyes open, and I went to bed. And I saw the score and the messages from you guys, and I could not believe my eyes.
Well, we were texting, and I'm like, the shots were 19-2, and it was 1-0 the Oilers. Then it was 19-3, 1-1. Then it was 19-5. It was 2-1. Then it was 19-7, and it was 3-1. And you're like, what is going on here? Like, it was you saw the air come out of the balloon, and they couldn't recover. And, like, there's so much to unpack there, but ultimately, you need a save, but McDavid doesn't look very good. Like, he's off. Like,
He
you
was
could
terrible
tell.
last
Like,
night.
Okay, guys. Let's. Even if McDavid is on, you're not winning. You can't win with that goaltending. Like, I don't know, why do they want to start? Like, when are they going to stop tricking themselves into thinking that that's good enough? I'm sorry. I love both the guys. They seem like sweetheart guys, but you can't win with that. There's just no way in hell. I'm sorry. No way.
That's valid. And Noodles, you saw last night. We were both watching. You could tell because the Oilers came out of a rocket when the puck dropped. Like they had 10 shots 3.5 minutes into the game. I don't recall ever seeing that, and I'm not kidding. Like it was wild. Demko stood on his head last night.
That's what elite goaltenders do.
No, exactly. But that was to the extreme on home ice where it was understood. It was like this team's going to show up. But they are so fragile right now.
Yes.
The second it was 2-1, the Oilers had lost. It was over. The game was finished because they couldn't believe they had 19 or 20 shots and they were down 2-1. And as good as Edmonton was in the first, I thought Vancouver was as good in the second. I thought Vancouver was great in the second period. And they control play. They are a good team. They play with pace. I'll tell you what, Quinn Hughes might be the most entertaining player in the game right now. And that was with McDavid and Draisaitl on the ice with him last night.
True.
You watch him play, the confidence he has as a last man back, walking the line. The guy is a stud. He is so much fun to watch.
The other day, Hayes, he might beat out his brother for the MVP, let alone the Norris Trophy.
Listen,
the narrative leans towards Quinn right now. Jack's hurt right now, but everyone knew the Devils were going to be good. No one knew the Canucks were going to be good. I don't think they sustained this. I don't think they finished with 110 points. But if they drag in and he finishes with 90-plus points and is a stud the way he is, nothing goes in when he's on the ice either. I mean, that's something you got to remember as well. The position he plays, it's not only about the offense. Guys, he battles.
Yeah.
He battles. He's not a big guy. You know, he's not Scott Stevens in the mid-90s or anything. But he and Hronek have really paired up well.
They're a nice pair, and that was a sneaky trade.
Yep.
But I said this last night. You look at the spine of their team. Like, it's Demko, it's Hughes, it's Pettersson, and you add in Miller, and you add in, like, the supporting cast. Like, they were the difference. Like, that, you're right. Like, that Quinn Hughes was dancing last night.
Ooh.
And the more confidence he got, it was like, okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. And you know what? When you're dancing and feeling good, you get positive bounces. That first goal, he throws it back door, day or Nate puts
no
it in
idea
the
how
net.
that went in.
Yeah,
exactly.
But he earned it because he's skating and moving with pace and playing with confidence. And, you're right. There's two teams at the end of the spectrum. Like, I put in the group text, too. Vancouver deserves a lot of love. Like, they looked really good once they settled in. The goaltender gave them a chance to settle in, and then once they settled in. And Edmonton, they can't do anything right now.
They're so fragile.
Right.
They're so fragile.
They had 10 minutes right last night.
Well, you're right.
I watched.
And that was it.
No, you're right.
The rest
of
it, petulance and they're frustrated. I shouldn't say petulance. They're frustrated. They're pissed off. McDavid's getting in scrums. Draisaitl got a 10.
Yeah.
Woodcroft gets kicked out, which I think is ludicrous. A coach getting kicked out for complaining about something. I think that's amateur hour by the NHL. Unless he said something offside, but he was adamant after the game he did not.
Yeah.
But still, I mean, the Oilers are in a bad place. And here's how wild it is. Skinner played last night, and yet Jack Campbell's on waivers today. Campbell didn't even play last night.
I know. Did you see Strutty's tweet? He goes, did he have a bad warm-up? But
imagine that, like texting your buddies on the bus saying, "Yeah, Skinner stunk tonight. I'm probably playing in San Jose," and then you get called in the morning.
Well, they don't have, like most teams, they don't have the room. And with the Connor Brown injury, like to me, I impact this two different ways. And tell me if I might be wrong or what's going on here.
I don't know. Is it your birthday? Please continue.
Did you see that? I don't know what happened. I waved at the camera.
It was such a good. You are about to have a great take.
Okay, so here's my
saying
take.
I'm anticipating greatness here.
Okay, so here's my take. They need a goaltender change, a goaltender disruption. So they're going to call that Pickard kid up who's got 120 games, give him an opportunity.
Good stats in the minors, though, so far.
Yeah, going to give him an opportunity.
No way. I got to stop the segment.
Hold on a second.
But that's what they're doing. It's just a fact.
Got to do something.
I know,
that's what
but
they're
if
doing.
you think Calvin Pickard's dragging you out of the mud.
He won't, of course not.
What they need, and the second thing is, that's the shot across the bow. You're taking a popular guy to the room and going, this is move one. Let's see what's next here, boys, because like you need to disrupt something. That's where, and this is the easiest path, and it sucks because, Campbell's a guy who's been fragile and it's a big contract, all of that, but they don't have the space. They could have just called the goaltender up if they had space, but they don't because of the Brown injury. So you have to waive somebody. You have to bring Pickard up. Maybe he plays a game or two, allows the other goaltenders to get their game in order, and maybe the team wakes up a little bit. That's what you're probably hoping.
That's what you're hoping for.
But this is move one of many if this doesn't work.
I agree. And they know Campbell's not getting claimed.
Right.
But as I said earlier, I'd love San Jose to put in a claim. Start him tomorrow night.
Oh, I know.
He stands on his head. It would be the craziest story in NHL history. Because I'll tell you what, if the Oilers lose in San Jose tomorrow, that
Thursday.
Or Thursday. Sorry, on Thursday. That is the bottom of the barrel. They should be relegated to the American Hockey League.
Dude,
you cannot lose against San Jose.
They'll be busing to Seattle.
That's right. It will not be a plane. It'll be a bus because although there's the reverse psychology is it's terrifying you're playing them. Because if San Jose, if you lose to them, you realize how embarrassing it is. Pierre LeBrun, our TSN Hockey Insider, will join us. His take on the Campbell waiving, but what the next move might be. What happens from here, where the Leafs are at. There's a lot of different stories going on, including Ottawa being here tomorrow night. We haven't seen them since the weekend. The security of DJ Smith. The fact that Woodcroft got kicked out last night. We might get into that with Pierre as well. And we got confirm or deny still to come later this afternoon. We got the Raptors in action tonight. It's going to be a good one. Oh, you didn't answer who you hate in that picture.
Joe from the bridge, can we see the two options for who I hate the most? Leave the face up that I hate the most, please. Thank you very much. There it is. There it is. I would never do that to a professional athlete, Partsy. That's the face I can't stand.
That's a smug face, but it's a face that's coming for you guys.
Coming back.
I'm coming back. The Beansy picture's coming out, Noodles. I'm right on their tail.
I think what he owes me to say, Partsy, who do you like tonight?
All right.
Because I had that one called last night, and he ignored me.
I agree with you. Well, we got a couple games coming that are going to be outrageous. Because
Greasy.
The Thursday nighter, I think, is Chicago, Carolina. And the Frankfurt game is the Pats against the Colts. Bill Belichick is going to Europe to sell the NFL. Do you know how awful that's going to be? So more on that later in the afternoon, later in the week as well. Raptors in action tonight. Pierre LeBrun coming up. Mike Johnson coming up. Confirm or deny coming up. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. Overdrive continues. Brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. Mike Johnson in just over half an hour. Confirm or deny still to come. The MLB awards are coming out. The GM meetings continue. I'm loving the reports indicating that every team is thinking about taking a run at Shohei Ohtani, including the Blue Jays. Of course,
what if they got him? What if they
not
got
getting
him?
Ohtani? Like, there's just they're not getting him. I don't
It's very
believe.
simple. He ends up with the Giants, the Dodgers, or the Yankees. That's it. Okay.
Yeah.
I hate to ruin it for you, but he's going to one of those three teams.
Probably true. Maybe the Angels. Again, I doubt it. I highly doubt it.
He's watched that routine. He's not going there.
I hear you, but if they offer him $600 million, he gets to live in L.A. He pairs up with Mike Trout. I would just say it's more likely he goes to the Angels than signs in Toronto. I'm just not bracing for Shohei
That
Ohtani
is for sure.
coming up here. But yeah, it was a wild one in the NHL last night, and this Canadian content just continues to be supplied, right? With the Leafs winning last night in pretty heroic fashion, the way they came back. It was an electric second, third period, great overtime. And they got Ottawa in town here tomorrow. And then the Oilers go into Vancouver and get pumped 6-2. And they are really, really not in a good place. Like, really, really not in a good place.
How much more hazy for you before we get to Pierre would you say their season is really in jeopardy?
I think we're within 5 games now.
Really?
I think so. I mean, they're 2-8-1. If you in the next 5 games they go 2-3 or 1-3-1 or something, that's a huge hole to dig out of. Like, massive hole. Like, just to get to third place in their own division, they're 11 points back. That's LA. LA's probably not going to give up an 11-point buffer. I know there's a lot of games, but
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's weird. With 71 games, it just looks so bleak. That's the problem. Like you can turn it. You can have a good week or a good 2 weeks and turn things around. But right now, it just in watching these games, you feel like you're a lifetime. Or if you're an Oiler, you feel like it's not even close. You're right.
2-8-1. They're a mess. All right, here's Pierre LeBrun, our TSN Hockey Insider. You answer that for us, Pierre. How far away
you guys
before?
are doing a good job.
Yeah, go ahead. What do you think? When do the Oilers realize their season could be cooked?
Well, first of all, forget about their division. That's over. They're not finishing in the top 3 spot in the Pacific. I mean, the realistic goal for them, and I actually still do believe they can make the playoffs, but it's wild card. And actually, if you look at the standings right now, it could be possible that the last playoff spot in the West this year has fewer points than what you usually see the last few years.
Yep.
If you look at some of the teams that are in contention right now around that last playoff spot, no one's really jumping up. So it actually is there, but they got to get on a heater here. And like what I would say is this: they need to get back to 500, I think, by Christmas or so. And you're going to say, well, that's no big deal. No, it's a big deal. They've got 2 wins in 11 games. Getting to 500 is actually a pretty big step. Mm-hmm. And then they got to use the second half of the year to work on trying to get in that playoff spot. So it's not out of the question yet, given what this team has done the last couple of years. They won 3 playoff series. They've done a lot of good. But I'm not going to sugarcoat what we've seen here in the opening 11 games to just have 2 wins. It is nothing short of stunning. I mean, if you talk to people around the league about what they're seeing with Edmonton, people are pretty shocked. And it's not like you didn't know they might have goalie issues or this or that. Of course, all these cracks in their armor were potentially there. But for all of them to show up at the same time, they're not scoring as well. They're not defending well. The PK is no good. The goaltending's terrible. And now it's eroding their confidence. It's snowball. And so this is, where are they in the bottom of the barrel moment? It's at a very critical juncture, I would say.
Yeah, no, I think you're right, because like there's guys within this that are hiding because they're further down the list. Like the goaltending's taking heat, the coaches, the GM is, the stars are. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, if you go watch him last night, you can't find him. Try to find him, you won't. He has 2 points in his last 8 games. The guy had 100 points last year. And again, that's further down the list, but that's just accentuating how big of a mess it is.
There's some guys on D struggling too, man.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
It's a disaster. Bouchard is a disaster, but today it's Jack Campbell that falls on the sword. What do you make of it, and what's the move after this if it continues to go south?
Yeah, and not to say it's the funny thing is, there's nothing funny about this if you're around the Edmonton Oilers, but Jack Campbell looks the same right now as he did a year ago. But a year ago, the Oilers were the highest scoring team in the league, and Stuart Skinner was on his way to a Calder Trophy nomination. All the other things that protected, that kind of insulated Jack Campbell from struggling last year, or Jack Campbell struggling but not taking the team down with him, aren't there right now, right? So now he gets waived. Obviously, no one's going to pick up that contract on waivers. I think my understanding is the Oilers just hope that he can go to the HL and kickstart his game. But I mean, listen, there are a couple of key areas. We're going to talk about this later on Insider Trading as well. 2 key things. I mean, at some point, they go out and try and upgrade their goaltending. Of course, that's a conversation already happening. Easier said than done. Brian, doesn't it sound like a broken record, you and I talking about this right now, in terms of teams identifying goaltending? Mm-hmm. Like who are you putting your hand up right now and saying that's what the Oilers should go get? Okay, before you answer that, here's number 2. If the Oilers find a trading partner in the next month or 2 for a goalie, and you have to know that moving Jack Campbell's contract has to either be part of that deal or a separate deal, but either way, moving Jack Campbell's contract has to be part of the equation in upgrading your goaltending for salary cap reasons.
Pierre, I think somebody has to make that transaction, though, to save the season. Like, someone's got to figure out the math and make something happen, because they can't win with that goaltending. They have no shot. No shot, man.
But this is the worst, right now in this moment, O-Doc, is the worst possible moment if you're Ken Holland to go out and make that trade, because you are making a trade out of desperation. Your leverage is shot. Everyone knows where you're at. And number 2, that means that you're paying even more through the nose for that goalie upgrade. And again, you guys can tell me what you think that upgrade is. So one price for the upgrade. So let's just put that on the sheet. You guys decide what that price is. Then there's another price to sweeten the idea of taking Jack Campbell's contract. You are now paying a big-time double asset price in this moment. A, because you're desperate for the goalie upgrade, and B, because you're desperate to move that contract. So, listen, they're going to work on it. I just don't see this as an overnight solution in terms of upgrading the goaltender.
It's not an overnight solution. It's not.
Right.
What you need is everybody to play better. Like I did Edmonton radio today, and I was thinking about it. If you watched every game that the Oilers have played, there's 2 players that have played to their capabilities, and that's in the last 7 games. Evander Kane and Warren Foegele. That doesn't include 97, 29, 93. Hyman, you go right down the list.
I know, but Noodles, the crazy thing is they all showed up 2 weeks before camp, and their comments were cup or bust. It's mandatory.
For sure.
Everybody was raring to go.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it's honestly reeking of something where you're like, did something happen? You know what I mean? Like something inside the locker room where somebody hates somebody. It almost looks like the way they're playing that there was an incident. Like someone's not happy. I don't. That's the only way to describe it.
So bad though.
But the thing is, you can't get a save. You look at it's 1-1, and go back and watch that second goal against. That's Suter. Yes, there's coverage problems coming back through the middle.
Can't go in.
You can't go in. You just can't.
And now when that goal is going in, this team's confidence completely evaporates because now it's snowballed too much.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So now they're waiting for that to happen. And it's brutal where they are right now.
It is. Go ahead.
Yeah. Hey, listen, maybe they win another lottery. Maybe that Macklin Celebrini's on McDavid's line next year. Maybe that's what they need. It's been 6 or 7 years.
Yeah, I think there will be a playoff team. I don't think they're going to be. I think they'll dig out. But they've got to. Their players, their top players have to play better. Bottom line. That's what.
Yeah, everyone outside of 2 guys, like you just said. Everybody.
Yeah. And there's so many other elements. We don't have time to spend the entire night on the Oilers, obviously. But Ken Holland, as everyone knows, and it's not a big deal. It's completely out there. But he's a lame duck GM. His deal's up at the end of the year, and I don't think that he is interested in anything else. He committed to 5 years, and this is year 5. So I'm just saying all these things add up in terms of elements that you can't completely ignore. He has a new boss in Jeff Jackson. Boy, can you imagine Jeff Jackson saying, maybe I should have stayed as an agent? I don't know, but this is a lot for him to handle in his first month at the helm of this organization. And you have an owner that, you can just imagine what his mood is like right now and how that factor alone could lead to potentially something big happening here. So it's so hard to just say one thing, right? There's a lot of different things multiplying here as the Oilers dig a bigger hole.
Yeah, and then, tomorrow night it's Ottawa and Toronto, and feels like a must-win for the Sens, right? Because I can't imagine their new owner is overly happy with what's going on in Ottawa right now.
Right.
No, and what is it about the month of November and the Senators the last few years? It's just bizarre. I get it when they were still in the rebuild, but this was not supposed to be a carryover again this year where they fall on their face in November. There's a ton of pressure on them to come up with 2 points in Toronto tomorrow night, massive. Obviously the players sticking up for DJ Smith. You've got a GM firing last week. You got a new owner who's all fired up. It is crazy what's happening there. And, next to the Oilers, who by far have the most pressure in the league to win a game. By the way, I didn't even mention, can you imagine if Edmonton loses in San Jose on Thursday night? But Ottawa needs 2 points. Wednesday night, pure and simple. They have to steer the ship here.
Yeah, that Edmonton game in San Jose, it should be embraced by the Oilers that if you show up and work, you're winning.
They're going to win 13-0.
I don't know. You know what's funny is San Jose plays Philly tonight. And I was talking to somebody earlier. You hope that San Jose, because Greer went in there, read them the riot act, right? So you hope if you're San Jose, you respond tonight and get the win, because if it's not, it's potentially responding against a fragile team in Edmonton. I'm telling you right now.
I'll bet all three of you guys that Edmonton wins by 8 or more.
I thought they were going to crush Vancouver last night.
Well, it looked like that the first 10 minutes. It looked like
they were the only team touching the puck in the opening 12 minutes of that game.
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah. No, it's wild, man. You got then Calgary is just kind of quiet again. They're playing tonight, and they got one win, and the Oilers are a mess. Ottawa's a mess, and the Flames are sitting there like, hey, we're going to turn things around. Meanwhile, they're 3-7-1.
Well,
so I don't know.
I mean, to use the kid Zadorow's comments, they don't have Daryl Sutter to kick around anymore. My point being, I think the reason that the Flames aren't garnering Bryan as much national attention with their struggles, generally speaking, is because they've had a GM change and a coaching change. Like, what else are you going to do right now? I mean,
right.
The change has happened, right? So now it's about whether you continue to remake the roster depending on their play, and obviously their play will dictate that. But my point is, I think that's why the temperature is a little lower there, is because they've already had massive changes.
Yeah, and lower expectations, certainly than in Edmonton. I mean, the Edmonton is so extreme. It's McDavid, Draisaitl, Cup or bust, everyone picking them, and it's just been such a bad start. Ottawa, again, it's been all this build-up and so much drama, more so off the ice than on the ice. We'll see, Pierre. It's could be worse. You could be the Dallas Cowboys trying to pretend like you actually won something on Sunday. Man, is that pathetic, the compensation.
They played well. I will say they played well, but it's only about wins and losses.
That's
right.
I
agree. But at least they weren't embarrassed.
Every Cowboy
If you ever
fan.
want to come to Bengal Nation, let me know, pal.
I'm confused. You have a new team every year, O-Dog.
Yeah,
No,
look, Tampa.
I was a Brady
Pats
guy, Pierre. You got to give me this. I was a Brady guy. I followed him to Tampa.
A Brady guy.
I was. That was
I
just
hear you, but it's not like you're a Jeff George guy. Like, that's a guy. Brady's Brady. He's the greatest player of all time.
I know. And I followed New England from the time he started there, and that was my team, because when I lived in Hartford, I was a Pats fan.
Okay.
So then I became Brady, and then Brady to Tampa, and then he retired. I'm like, I don't like Tampa anymore. I want a new team. I'm on board with the Bengals.
Okay.
We could have done a whole segment just on that. That's fascinating to me.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
What a shock. Right when Joe Burrow showed up, he decided Cincinnati's a team I'm willing to check out. But, all right.
Well, I'm Cowboys for life,
I
unfortunately.
hear you, buddy. No, they're going to the playoffs. They're a good team, but it's a lot of compensation. Always lessons being learned, just like another team we're familiar with. They lose, but the lessons were learned, and next time it'll be different. Yeah, it's always next time. Next time it'll be different. All right, Pierre. We'll do it again soon. Thank you, buddy.
Okay.
Pierre LeBrun, our TSN Hockey Insider. TSN 1050's Leafs lineup, your chance to win Leaf tickets every week all season long. Every weekday we'll announce a current or former Maple Leaf player, and on Fridays you'll have a chance to call in and name that Leaf lineup of the week. Name all the players, and you're going to score a pair of tickets to an upcoming game. This week we're giving away a pair of tickets to see the Leafs play the Panthers November 28th. Today's player of the day is Bryan McCabe. Bryan McCabe. Our boy
Khakis in the golf shirt.
Khakis and a tight tuck golf shirt. Just cruising the draft floor, which will not be a thing anymore when they change the way they operate the draft.
Do you know how many scouts are so pissed at that? Like, that was their weekend to shine.
Yeah.
Like,
all
get
week.
your work done, 100 beers at night, and it's like getting a new suit, and you're going to the draft, and they're just, nothing.
No, you stay at home. Come work with us. Like,
go to the rink. Go to the rink.
Go to the rink. Terrible.
Yeah. By the way, pretty pointed comments from Pierre. I've never heard Pierre's.
You know what, though? Like, again, here's where, like, the gambler in me is like, this is the time to hammer the Oilers' futures, because you get great odds, and it's 11 games, and, like, would anyone be shocked if at the 40-game mark they're in the playoffs or within 2 or 3 points?
I think
probably
they can.
not.
I think they can sniff around the top of their division still.
No, they can't catch Vegas. Dude.
Give me odds. Give me odds.
I think they could catch LA. I think they could get the third, but I don't think they can get to second or first. Here's a question.
Maybe you're right, but
what is going on with this balloons
I
thing?
don't know,
What the
dude.
hell's going on
you
here?
Gotta
Dude,
figure
it's
it out.
freaking me out. I'm starting to wonder if there was something
It's got
in the food.
no. It's this app that we're on or whatever. This whatever the TV.
Oh, and I don't have
Anyway,
an issue.
happy
I've got a
birthday,
new
pal.
phone.
Happy birthday,
buddy.
brother.
Happy birthday. We
But
love
what
you.
are the odds for the Oilers to win the cup? Or to
Look that up. Yeah,
we should look at that.
We got to look that up. All right, Horvat will look that up. Give us the odds, Chris. Give us, the full update on winning the division, making the playoffs, all that stuff for Edmonton. All right, Mike Johnson coming up. Confirm or deny coming up. Raptors in Dallas tomorrow night. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. All right, Mike Johnson coming up. I don't know who's running our Twitter account. I have an idea who it is. Posting the picture of me last night. It's such a greasy pic. Like, I look horrible in that picture that you snapped when we were FaceTiming last night. This is why I don't answer your FaceTimes. Because you snap a pic, you post it, and now it's out there, and now I can't get the cat back in the bag.
It's
and I have
Cheech
some
and
awful
Chong.
pictures already
Yeah,
out there.
you do.
Cheech and Chong.
Awful
You do look
pictures.
like you're in one for sure.
I look like I
gummies.
am Laramie Tunsil. I look like Laramie Tunsil, and I'm having a great time. And I had the gas mask on, and look at that face.
I don't think it's that bad. It's just a stupid face, like a stupid smile.
Oh,
like,
you look
I'm the
high. You
best.
do look high.
I do. My eyes
Yeah.
are absolutely buckled.
Yeah,
But
that
what
is
are
that
you
is
gonna do?
college. That's college haze right there.
That probably is. That's me trying to run a casino and losing money. That's me in the corner being like, I wonder why we're losing money. It's
Yeah.
like, because you're an idiot and you're not paying attention. That's why. You have no money, you have no muscle, and you're going to lose money. That's why. So that was my reality. All right, hour 2 coming up. Mike Johnson on the Leaf win last night. The statement by Matthew Knies, what he saw to Nick Robertson. What do they do with Ilya Samsonov? Among many other things around the NHL. Raptors back in action tomorrow night in Dallas. We'll start looking ahead to that. Kevin Gausman up for the Cy Young. There's a lot going on. Confirm or deny still to come. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.